The morning had unfolded without urgency, its rhythm shaped by insects drifting over still water and distant birds threading sound through the mist. The swamp lay quiet in a way that felt almost deliberate, as if even the wind had chosen to move elsewhere. Beneath the pale light, a wide stretch of reeds bent gently, their reflections trembling on the surface. It was there, near the darker edge where land softened into water, that a massive shape rested half-submerged, unmoving. From a distance, it appeared like a fallen log or a shadow left behind by the night. Only the faint rise and fall of its chest suggested otherwise. Closer observation revealed the slow, fragile rhythm of breathing. Each inhale seemed to gather effort from somewhere deep and exhausted, each exhale slipping out with barely enough strength to disturb the surface around its muzzle. Mud clung to thick fur, darkened by water and time. One foreleg lay twisted slightly beneath the body, pressed into the silt at an unnatural angle. The mane, usually lifted by pride and motion, had flattened into tangled strands, weighed down by moisture. Flies hovered nearby, hesitant, sensing vulnerability but uncertain. Around the lion, the swamp felt emptied of life. Birds kept their distance. Small mammals avoided the reeds. Even the frogs had quieted, as if responding to something unspoken. Not far away, a man moved slowly along a narrow trail used by rangers and herders alike. He had walked this route for years, learning its patterns, its ordinary sounds, its daily changes. He noticed when the air grew too silent, when the insects stopped humming, when the water stopped rippling. That morning, the stillness pressed against him. He paused, scanning the reeds, letting his eyes adjust. Then he saw it. The curve of a back. The dull sheen of wet fur. The unmoving weight of a body that did not belong to water. He approached carefully, each step deliberate, avoiding sudden splashes. As he drew nearer, the scale of the animal became undeniable. The lion's flank barely shifted with each breath. Its eyes were half open, clouded with fatigue, unfocused, drifting between wakefulness and surrender. Occasionally, its tail twitched weakly as if responding to distant sensation. A shallow cut marked the side of its shoulder, crusted with dried blood and mud. The man stopped a few meters away, lowering himself slightly, keeping his voice soft. "Easy, easy now," he murmured, more for calm than instruction. The lion did not react, only released another thin breath that trembled across the water. He remained there, watching, listening, allowing time to reveal what urgency concealed. He noticed how the animal's ears barely responded to nearby sounds, how its whiskers lay flat, how its body no longer resisted the pull of gravity. The swamp, once a place of refuge, had become a trap. Thick mud held the lion's weight. Weakness had erased its strength. Somewhere beyond the reeds, unseen herds continued moving, unaware of the quiet struggle unfolding at the edge of their world. Above them, clouds drifted slowly, thinning as the sun rose higher. Light filtered through leaves and touched the water in scattered gold. The breeze returned, just enough to stir the grass along the bank. It carried with it the faint scent of wet earth and distant life, brushing over the motionless figure and the man who stood beside it, waiting as the day continued to breathe around them. He returned as the light grew stronger, carrying only what he could manage alone. A length of rope rested over one shoulder. A small pack hung at his side, holding water, cloth, and simple tools worn smooth by years of use. Nothing about his approach suggested urgency, yet every movement held purpose. He had left quietly earlier, trusting that stillness would preserve what little strength remained. Now he walked back into the reeds with measured steps, listening for the same fragile rhythm he had memorized before. The swamp had shifted in his absence. Insects had returned in cautious waves, hovering low over the water. A pair of distant birds called from the trees, their voices thin and uncertain. Reeds whispered softly as a breeze passed through. The world was awake again, but it moved as though aware of something delicate unfolding beneath it. The lion remained where he had been, though its body seemed heavier against the mud, pressed further into the dark silt. The waterline had crept higher along its flank. Its breathing, once shallow but steady, now paused briefly between each rise, as if gathering resolve before continuing. The man stopped several steps away and lowered himself slowly. He placed his pack beside him without sound. For a long moment he did nothing. He watched. He learned again the rhythm of the animal's body. He noted the subtle tremor in its hind leg, the faint tightening of muscles that no longer obeyed easily. The lion's eyes were open now, more fully than before, though still unfocused. They followed motion in short, uncertain bursts, pausing often, drifting back toward stillness. A fly landed near its nose. The lion twitched weakly, lifting its head barely an inch before letting it sink again. Water rippled outward in small circles. Its ears shifted once, slowly reacting to the man's presence without turning toward him. There was awareness there, fragile and incomplete, like a distant signal trying to travel through exhaustion. He reached into his pack and removed a cloth, dipping it into the water, wringing it out carefully. Inch by inch, he leaned forward, stopping whenever the lion's breathing faltered. When he was close enough, he extended his arm and gently laid the damp fabric near the animal's shoulder, not touching, only letting the coolness rest against heated air. "It's all right," he whispered, barely shaping the words. The sound floated briefly, then vanished into reeds. The lion responded with the smallest motion. Its whiskers trembled. One paw shifted slightly, dragging through mud before settling again. Its chest rose more deeply once, then returned to its fragile pattern. Trust had not formed. Fear had not fully lifted. What remained was something quieter, more uncertain, a thin line between resistance and surrender. Time stretched. The man stayed where he was, adjusting his posture slowly when needed, never breaking the fragile calm. Clouds drifted overhead, thinning and thickening as minutes passed. Wind traced faint patterns across the water's surface. Somewhere far away, a herd moved, their hooves dull and distant. In the swamp, waiting became its own form of work, shared silently between a weakened lion and the steady presence beside it. The afternoon light softened as clouds drifted thinly across the sky, dimming the harshness of the sun. The swamp responded in quiet ways. Shadows shifted along the reeds. Water cooled slightly at the surface. The air grew heavier, carrying the scent of damp soil and slow decay. The man sensed the change and adjusted his movements to match it. He rose carefully from where he had been sitting, allowing his joints to unfold without sound, and reached for the rope resting beside his pack. He did not move toward the lion immediately. Instead, he paused, watching for any sign of distress. The animal's breathing remained shallow but steady. Its eyes followed him briefly, then settled again. A faint tremor ran through its flank, more from fatigue than fear. Encouraged by the absence of resistance, he took one slow step forward, then another, placing his feet where mud would not pull them under. When he reached the edge of the lion's body, he lowered himself again, keeping his posture small and unthreatening. He extended the rope loosely in his hands, letting it rest against his palm, warming it before use. For a long moment he simply stayed there, allowing his presence to become part of the stillness. The first contact was indirect. He slipped the rope gently into the water near the lion's foreleg, letting it drift with the current until it brushed against fur. The lion's muscles tightened slightly. Its head lifted a fraction, then settled. No growl came. No sudden movement followed. Only a slow exhale rippled the surface. He whispered, barely audible, "You're safe, easy." The words were more breath than sound. With care, he guided the rope beneath the trapped leg, feeling blindly through mud and roots. His fingers sank deep into cold silt, working patiently, never forcing. When the rope emerged on the other side, he paused again, waiting for reaction. The lion shifted weakly, adjusting its weight, then remained still. Encouraged, he began applying the slightest tension, testing resistance rather than pulling. The mud clung stubbornly. It released only in small, reluctant movements. Each time the leg shifted, the lion's body responded with shallow gasps, but no attempt to pull away followed. Its ears flicked once. Its tail moved weakly, tracing a faint line through water. He stopped often. Between efforts, he rested his hands, allowing the animal's breathing to steady. He wiped mud from his fingers against his trousers and returned to work without haste. Sweat gathered at his temples and slipped down his neck, unnoticed. Slowly the leg began to loosen. The angle softened. Pressure eased. The lion's chest rose a little more fully for several breaths, as though space had been returned to it. Its eyes, once drifting, now held his movements longer. Not with challenge. Not with fear. With something closer to quiet attention. When he shifted the rope slightly higher, the lion did not resist. Its muscles did not tense. Instead, it allowed its weight to be guided, responding with small, cooperative adjustments. A soft sound escaped its throat, low and strained, then faded. The man adjusted his grip and pulled again, gently, steadily. Mud released with a muted sound, like fabric tearing underwater. The foreleg lifted a few inches free before settling again on firmer ground. He froze, waiting. The lion remained still. Around them, insects hummed more boldly. Leaves rustled in distant trees. Water lapped softly against exposed roots. In that quiet moment, something subtle shifted. The animal no longer fought the contact. It no longer withdrew from it. Between breath and breath, in the space where exhaustion met patience, a fragile acceptance had taken hold. Evening approached without ceremony, arriving in softened colors and longer shadows. The sun leaned low, filtering through thin clouds and broken branches, spreading pale gold across the wetland. The air cooled gradually, easing the heavy warmth that had settled over the swamp throughout the day. The man had not counted the hours. His body measured time in slow breaths, aching muscles, and careful pauses. Each movement had been given its place. Each effort had been followed by rest. Together, he and the lion had worked their way inch by inch toward solid ground. The rope lay darkened with mud and water. His hands were stained, his sleeves heavy with damp. Yet his movements remained steady. He adjusted his grip once more and applied gentle pressure, guiding rather than pulling. The ground beneath the lion had changed. The silt gave way to firmer soil mixed with roots and compacted earth. With each small shift, resistance lessened. The lion's body responded in fragments of strength. Its foreleg pressed weakly against the ground. Its shoulders lifted slightly, then settled. Its breathing deepened for several moments before thinning again. A low, strained sound slipped from its throat, not a call, not a warning, only the sound of effort passing through exhaustion. The man waited between each attempt. He watched the rise and fall of the chest. He listened for changes. When the lion's head drooped too low, he paused. When its breathing steadied, he continued. At last, with one final slow adjustment, the lion's weight shifted fully onto solid ground. Its body slid free of the water and mud, settling onto the bank with a heavy, tired motion. The movement stirred the surface behind it, sending quiet ripples back into the reeds. The man released the rope and remained still, crouched a short distance away. He did not approach. He allowed the moment to unfold without interference. The lion lay on its side, flanks heaving gently. Mud coated its lower body. Water dripped from its fur in thin lines. Its muscles twitched occasionally, adjusting to unfamiliar relief. One forepaw flexed weakly, pressing into dry soil. The earth held. For several minutes, neither moved. Gradually, the swamp began to sound different. Insects resumed their layered hum. Birds called from distant branches. Wind slid through grass along the bank. Life, paused for hours, returned cautiously. Beyond the far reeds, movement appeared. Shadows shifted. Shapes gathered. At the edge of the wetland, partially hidden by tall grass, several lions stood quietly. Their bodies were still alert. Heads were lifted. Tails hung low. They did not advance. They watched. The rescued lion seemed to sense them before seeing them. Its ears turned slowly. Its eyes opened wider, focusing at last. It lifted its head with visible effort and held it there, trembling slightly. After a moment, it lowered it again, resting. Then, unexpectedly, it turned. Not toward the distant figures. Toward the man. Their eyes met briefly. The lion's gaze was unfocused, dimmed by fatigue, yet present. There was no challenge in it. No fear. Only awareness. A quiet acknowledgement of the presence that had remained beside it through stillness and strain. The man did not move. He breathed softly and waited. After a few seconds, the lion turned its head back toward the reeds and closed its eyes again, resting against solid ground as the evening light faded around them. Night approached slowly, carried on cooling air and lengthening shadows. The wetland dimmed into muted blues and soft gray, as sunlight thinned and retreated beyond distant trees. The man remained where he had been for a long time, seated near the bank, his posture relaxed but attentive. He had not moved closer. He had not packed his tools. He waited, allowing the lion to decide what came next. The rescued animal lay quietly, breathing more evenly now. Each rise of its chest was fuller than before, less strained. Mud had dried in rough patches along its fur. Water no longer pooled beneath its body. The ground held firm. From time to time, one ear flicked toward distant sounds. A paw shifted slightly, testing strength. Fatigue still weighed heavily, but it no longer pinned the body in place. Beyond the reeds, the pride remained visible in fragments. A shoulder. A tail. The curve of a back slipping between grasses. They moved subtly, adjusting position, waiting without urgency. Their presence formed a silent boundary, a place of belonging held open. After several minutes, the lion stirred. It rolled partially onto its chest and rested there, gathering strength. Its forelegs pushed weakly at first, then more steadily. With visible effort, it lifted its body upright. The movement was slow and uneven, accompanied by shallow breaths and brief pauses. When it finally stood, its legs trembled, adjusting to weight and balance. It remained motionless for a moment, steadying itself. The man watched without shifting. The lion took one step, then another. Not toward the reeds, toward him. The distance between them closed gradually. Each movement was deliberate, careful. There was no rush in it, no uncertainty. The animal's head was lowered slightly. Its gaze remained soft, unfixed, but aware. Its tail hung loosely behind, barely moving. When it reached a few steps away, it stopped. For a brief moment, both remained still. The swamp seemed to hold its breath. Then the lion inclined its head. Not deeply, not dramatically, only enough to register as intention. A subtle lowering. Pause. A return to neutral. Its eyes met the man's once more, steady and calm. No sound was made. No contact followed. Nothing further was needed. The man felt his chest tighten slightly, not from effort, not from strain, but from the quiet weight of understanding. He did not reach out. He did not speak. He acknowledged the gesture only by remaining present, by keeping his posture open and still. After a few seconds, the lion turned away. It walked slowly toward the waiting grass, its steps measured but growing more confident with each movement. The pride shifted to receive it. One shape moved forward. Another followed. Soon, bodies blended into shadows and reeds, dissolving into the landscape that had always held them. Within moments they were gone. Only flattened grass and faint tracks remained. The man stayed where he was. Wind passed through the wetland, stirring reeds and carrying the distant scent of earth and water. Insects resumed their steady rhythm. Somewhere far away, a night bird called once, then fell silent. He gathered his rope and packed slowly, his movements unhurried. Before leaving, he looked once more toward the tall grass, now dark and still. Nothing moved. Yet the memory remained. Like warmth and cooling air. Like light lingering after sunset. He turned and walked away quietly, carrying it with him into the deepening night.